All right, folks, it's time to start our engines up again for the Oscar race for what is this, the 91st Academy Awards, and I'm actually going to get a couple more things open here. Now, I originally had a video shot here, that was going to be posted here right around the 1st of September, if not maybe a day or two before, and I kind of reviewed the footage a little bit, and there was something. For whatever reason, when I was talking about it, because of course the film Black Klansman came up, because I'm starting to think Black Klansman's probably going to be, if not the front runner for Best Picture pretty soon, it's going to be definitely one that's higher up in the conversation. And for whatever reason, when I was talking about it, I forgot that it wasn't Charleston, it was Charlottesville. That was the town because the end of the movie shows some footage from there. And just the way when I reviewed the footage, it came off and almost sounded like I was joking about what town it was, and it was like, yeah, I'm not posting that. So, anyway, yeah, obviously stuff like that is not a laughing matter or anything. So, with that, I kind of had that, and then I was like, well, then on top of that, by the time I got this, it's time now for this new video. Now we've had the Venice Film Festival. That's actually just about wrapped up, and the Telluride Film Festival is all done. So, and we're coming on to TIFF that starts later this week. So I was like, okay, let's just go ahead and just start over and kind of just take another look at everything here. And before we get started, though, there was something I wanted to mention. That was that this year I'm doing something a little different. Instead of, well, I'll continue to do the videos here for sure, and that's going to continue and everything. But I'm also partnering up this year with CulturedVultures.com. I'm actually their official as I can get, I guess, Oscar consultant for the season. So I'm going to be posting articles on there pretty much every week. I mean, just talking about, obviously at this point, we've got a new article coming up every week that's kind of a preview of the rest of the year. So I have articles already posted for September and October for what films are coming out. We're publishing the November one this week. The December one will be next week. We've also got, I had a preview for Venice Film Festival. With the Labor Day holiday, I was away, so I wasn't able to do an article for Telluride, but I do plan on having a two-parter article that's kind of a preview of the Toronto Film Festival. I'm actually going to be writing that here. Actually, as soon as I'm done with this video, I'm going to start with the initial draft on that. So yeah, for this year, yeah, it's going to be a lot of that. So the priority this year when it comes to Oscar topics, when I change my mind on a category, or if something big comes up, a big review, or if something like that happens, I'm probably going to go to the website first for for any opinions or changes in predictions and stuff, and then after that, I'll go to the video stuff. And so the videos might not, obviously time is going to be something that we don't, I don't know yet how much time I'm going to have devoted to this or this or that. So the videos might not be as common this year. Instead, we might just be focusing mainly on the articles this year. But that all being said, definitely I'm going to continue to do videos. So for the overall kind of first phase, of course, of the Oscars, it's always just a pure speculation stage. But since obviously I was kind of changing my tactic there a little bit this year, I was like, okay, well now it's kind of early speculation plus a little bit of insight from the first couple of big film festivals in the on the festival circuit. And really, the kind of the triple crown of the festivals are Venice, Telluride, and Toronto. After that, you've got like the London Film Festival, which is I think going to be a bigger festival this year than it has been the last couple of years. We've got the AFI Film Fest, the New York Film Festival, stuff like that. Those are happening in October and November. So those, are kind of the last place where we'll see a couple other films premiere, because I know there's a couple films like Mary Queen of Scots, which has not been on the festival circuit yet, and that's one I thought would be on. We've got like Backseat, Adam McKay's new film. That has not been on any of the circuits yet, but that one I can see premiering at AFI, or even premiering at New York Film Festival even. There was one other one I'm kind of looking through the list here again. I'm like, haven't seen that one, and no, I can't find it. Well, I was thinking maybe Bohemian Rhapsody might come up on a couple of the festivals, but I was like, yeah, since it is a big studio film, when it comes to the big studios, sometimes they'll try that. Like The Hate U Give is going to be at Toronto this year. That's a big 20th Century Fox film. A Star Is Born is a big Warner Brothers film this year, and that's going to be at is it at all three festivals? Or I know it was for sure at now I can't think of it now, Venice, and it's going to be at Toronto. But I can't remember if it was at Telluride or not. And it happened to be like the day I left for the Labor Day holiday was the same day that the list came out for Telluride. So yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit here. But first, I wanted to just start with the films that have already been released to the public for everybody to see that I think have a shot at the Oscars. The first one I, of course, thought of was back in February, and they actually made a couple jokes about it on the Oscar cast last year, and that was, how upset are we all going to be when Black Panther doesn't get nominated? And at this rate, I'm thinking Black Panther actually has a solid chance of getting nominated for Best Picture. Now, outside of that, like screenplay, I'm not sure on. Director for Ryan Coogler, I'm not sure on. I don't know about the acting categories, if that will even get anywhere close. Then again, I thought Daniel Kaluuya was not going to get anywhere close to Best Actor last year. Look what happened. So maybe somebody like a Chadwick Boseman for Best Actor, or more likely, I think, is Michael B. Jordan for Supporting Actor. He was, of the whole cast, I think he and Letitia Wright are the standouts there, but Supporting Actress, I don't know about that category. At this stage, it looks like Supporting Actress is going to be the weakest of the four acting categories, but like I said, it's very early, so we could see a whole bunch of big contenders really come out of nowhere from a couple of films we're not really looking at yet. I think in the tech categories, Black Panther's probably looking at some more solid chances like costume design, production design, visual effects maybe, even though for me visual effects didn't really work in the movie. The sound categories are always a possibility. I particularly really like the score to Black Panther. Yeah, what else? I think those were the big highlights there. I don't know. Rachel Morrison is a cinematographer. She got nominated last year for Mudbound, so it was well shot, but maybe not in a way that stands like it's one of the five best of the year. I don't know, but then again, like I said, there's a whole bunch we haven't seen yet. Early Man, this is the Aardman animation film, so maybe they traditionally. If they have a big movie come out, do get nominated at least. They've won with the Wallace and Gromit movie, and a lot of the Wallace and Gromit shorts have won before. So it wasn't a big moneymaker, at least here in the States. I think maybe it did a little better on the overseas markets and stuff, but it wasn't a big player here in the U.S. So just in case they do go for Aardman again, I wanted to mention that one. Let's see, the next one that I was, and I do have a article that'll be posted this week on films that are already out that do have a big Oscar chance. The next one here I found was Wes Anderson's new film Isle of Dogs. I have not seen this one yet. Planning on seeing it, relatively soon, whenever I get time. But Wes Anderson, I'm thinking this one definitely animated features in play. And the other thing I'm thinking is maybe not Best Picture or Best Director, but Best Original Screenplay, because Wes Anderson's a usual candidate there to get nominated. Ready Player One's already out. I'm thinking this one just mainly for like visual effects and the sound categories. I don't see it being a Best Picture contender, even though it was one of my favorites of the year so far. I liked it a lot better than most people did, but yeah, outside of those three categories, I don't really see too much potential there. Maybe Best Score for Silvestri, but I don't know. Let's see, then we had Quiet Place come out. I don't think this is going to be a big contender at all. It was a big box office hit. It's probably my second or third favorite film of the year. Third favorite, yeah. And it's one I really liked when I was watching it, and then afterwards, you kind of think about it again. And you're like, oh, this is a plot hole here, plot hole here, plot hole here. But it was a fun movie to watch. So yeah, I don't think that one's got any credentials at all when it comes to Oscars. But I know a couple people are already talking about it. But yeah. Then we got Avengers: Infinity War, which I really like too. Again, I'm thinking mainly just visual effects, the sound categories, maybe original score. Yeah, that's going to be about it for that one. In May, we had Tully come out, Jason Reitman's new film. He's got The Frontrunner coming out in November, and so far it looks like that one is going to be maybe not one of his best works, but definitely on the right track to getting back to that level of like Up in the Air and Juno, where he was a real up-and-coming director, and who really gotten there. And now it's like he kind of fell off a little bit, and I still haven't really forgiven him for that Men, Women, and Children film, which I despised and I absolutely hated when I saw it. So I don't know. But this one, it's like Charlize Theron and Mackenzie Davis were really the two big stars of the film, and we got Diablo Cody writing the screenplay too. So there's a couple, heavy hitters in that film. Again, I don't know. Since Reitman already has another film out, that's probably going to be a bigger player at the Oscars. At this rate, it might get forgotten, but just in case, I'll mention it. We got Solo: A Star Wars Story, which fell apart at the box office and really is the weakest of the newest Star Wars films since they've come over to Disney and stuff. But we have to remember, every Star Wars film released except for the Clone Wars animated film has been nominated for some Oscar. An Oscar of some kind, like makeup for Revenge of the Sith and all that stuff. So, that's, another thing. This might bust the trend, and this might be the first Star Wars film not to get a nomination, but, because of the kind of tainted image to it. But, just one to mention there. One I have missed, I really want to see badly, is the Fred Rogers documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor, which I think is probably going to be the front runner for documentary feature this year, especially when you had a film like that come out and just storm the box office from, documentary feature perspectives. Most of the time, like Amy a couple years ago or March of the Penguins, if they do huge business, everybody knows about it, then usually they'll win. So at this rate, I think it'll be a front runner for sure. Incredibles 2, I personally really liked it. Aside from the fact that it's basically the same story as the first one, just this time with a female lead instead of a male lead. But yeah, it was a fun ride and everything. So and it is Pixar, so it'll probably be up for animated feature. And even though the first one was up for original screenplay, the adapted screenplay category this year is going to be much, much, much more complex and much more crowded than last year. Like last year, we had to fill in a lot of spots. On my thinking, I was like, okay, well, we got The Disaster Artist, we got Molly's Game, we've got the winner was Call Me by Your Name. I'm like, I don't know what to do with those other two spots, and we ended up going with Mudbound and Logan. And just to clear the record here, everybody knows, right, that Logan would not have been nominated last year if it wasn't such a weak category, right? We're all on that page? Good. Anyways, so so I think Incredibles 2 will really, that conversation kind of stops and starts with animated feature. Then again, Pixar films sometimes do get into the sound categories, but we'll have to see on that one. We'll mention, just for the sake of it, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, which I was bored to tears watching, and it's probably the worst in that series, including the old ones and everything. It's like, it was really not for me. But, the original film went 3 for 3 at the '94 Oscars, so that's something to mention. Again, that kind of starts and stops with visual effects and the sound categories, really. Let's see, then we've got Sorry to Bother You came out in the summer. This is another one I missed. And I'm not sure, because I haven't seen it myself, but it's like this one I've heard a lot of, the majority of critics liked it. I think it's around 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I've heard a handful of individuals who absolutely could not stand the movie and thought it's probably one of the year's worst films. And like I said, I'll have to see it myself to kind of judge on that. And then also some recent comments from Boots Riley on really just kind of bashing Spike Lee for his work on BlacKkKlansman. Really made him look like somebody who's kind of jealous of of somebody whose film took off a little better at the box office, got a little better critical reception on their film, and they're, I know they're not the same topics, they're not the same focus point as far as the film goes, but I do know that there's a little bit of similarity between the plots there, at least a little bit. So so I think that kind of really shot Boots Riley is the director again. I think he kind of shot himself in the foot with those comments he made as far as because the film, I think some people, if there were enough fans of it, I think it maybe has a shot at like original screenplay or maybe, I don't know about I haven't heard anybody particular say, this performance is the standout or this performance here. So I don't know about the acting categories either, but it's like, I don't know. I'll mention it in case it does kind of come around again and get some attention there. Then we got 8th Grade, came out in July. I did see this one. I liked it. I'm usually a huge, huge fan of those coming-of-age movies. And with this one, I kind of feel like with this and Lady Bird, it's like I've maybe reached a peak where it's like I've seen all the coming-of-age movies, and it's like, okay, I kind of get all the tropes now, and it's kind of like, okay, well, this is the scene where this happens, and so on and so forth. So it was kind of it's kind of to that stage with me where it's like eighth grade really stood out for me a little more um, than I was originally thinking it would because of like the performances from like Elsie Fisher and Josh Hamilton. It's particularly Josh Hamilton, who I think is worthy of a supporting actor nomination just from what I've seen so far. And he was really great as the dad. And yeah, Elsie Fisher, I'm hoping she gets a good couple jobs out of this because she was pretty good. And Bo Burnham, I do have him in right now for original screenplay at this very early stage because that original screenplay category this year is for whatever reason I'm looking at all the stuff and it's like almost all, well, I shouldn't say almost all, but a large 75% or higher of the big Oscar contenders this year when it comes to the screenplay categories are going to be competing in that adapted screenplay category. So yeah, that kind of throws a wrench into things. So that makes original screenplay a much easier category this year, at least from the competition standpoint of getting nominated. Whereas last year, adapted screenplay was, if you were going to be a big Oscar contender and you're in adapted screenplay, you had a pretty easy shot there. Whereas original screenplay last year was just like a clusterfuck. It was like, we had 20, I counted like 20 films last year in that original screenplay category that I thought had a legitimate shot of being nominated at one point. So it was like, holy crap. So yeah, this one, I was like 8 out of 10 on it. I didn't think it was the best film of the year or anything, and Lady Bird I thought was maybe a little better, especially from like directorial standpoint and maybe a couple of the performances too. But yeah, this is one I did like. And then another one I didn't see was Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot, new Gus Van Sant film. Yeah, normally he'd be a bigger conversation in the Oscar place, but since this came out in the dead heat of July and kind of came and went, Joaquin Phoenix is in it, but he's also got the Sisters Brothers out, so maybe he'll get a bigger push acting-wise from a film like that. But I wanted to mention it because I did see the preview when it came out, and it was a Sundance film as well, and I was like, oh, it looks decent. So I haven't seen that one yet, but wanted to mention that. I know some people are going to be shocked when I say this, but my favorite film of the year so far is Mission Impossible Fallout. I'll tell you what, I walked out of that movie and I kind of posted it on my Facebook reviews, and I was like, this might be the best action movie ever made. Like, when I first walked out, I was like, this is incredible. I mean, not just the stunts, but it's like the story and the direction. It's easily the best of the series, and I particularly liked the fourth one, Ghost Protocol. I wasn't as big on the fifth one, which everybody kind of said was the best one up to that point, but I'm like, no, this sixth one, I think, knocks them all out of the park. And yeah, and I'm hoping this one is finally the one that kind of breaks into the Oscar race, and because none of the other films have been nominated anywhere. But I did like, visual effects, the sound categories, again, are probably going to be it. I don't see Paramount pushing this for Best Picture. They've got a couple other films in the race this year, I think. Right now I can't think of it. I know Quiet Place was their big box office winner, and obviously Mission Impossible is making a lot of money too. But Quiet Place was kind of that unexpected box office hit, whereas this, we expected like 500 million plus. So yeah, let's see. Then we've got there's one out right now. It's kind of making the rounds on those smaller independent theater chains, and that's Miseducation of Cameron Post. I think it looks all right. Again, it's kind of another one of those coming of age stories, but more about a kind of conversion camp kind of film there. And we've got another one of those, Boy Erased, that comes out in November. So these two are kind of at heads with each other. And the reviews on this have been so-so. A couple people liked it more than others, I know. But again, it's one I haven't seen yet. It's not playing in my local area yet. I don't know. Yeah, I think Boy Erased will probably be the bigger contender here, and it's probably going to kind of swamp everything that Miseducation of Cameron Post is doing. But in case we do get that flipped and this one comes back, then I wanted to mention it there. Yeah, BlacKkKlansman. Now we're up to this. I've got a hot take for. I think Spike Lee is going to be our frontrunner for Best Director this year for BlacKkKlansman. I do think that's the case. Number one, historically speaking, we've never seen a black male win Best Director. They've been nominated, like we had Barry Jenkins nominated a couple years ago, Jordan Peele was nominated last year, Steve McQueen was nominated for 12 Years a Slave, and so on and so forth. And I could easily make a big argument that Spike Lee should have been nominated for both, for Best Director, for both Do the Right Thing and Malcolm X, but obviously that didn't happen. And I can definitely see this film being a big player in the adapted screenplay category. I can see John David Washington, the lead actor. I could see him breaking into the Best Actor race. I really could. Part of that is probably the pedigree of being the son of Denzel Washington, who's normally a nominee when he has a film out. I think that helps him, and definitely Spike, being in this film, which is, I think, starting to become a pretty big player at the box office too. I think it's after this weekend, it's almost up to 40 million, which is really good because I love the movie. It's probably my second favorite film under Mission Impossible, and the reason I mention that is just because of that the Charlottesville footage at the end, which for me I felt was actually a little unnecessary. And I got obviously I think Spike Lee is a director who makes his own choices and really doesn't compromise on those choices and stuff, and good on him for that. But for me personally, I felt like he left enough messages in the film, whether it's just with the fact that it's the KKK, versus police department and versus black society and versus really just everybody having the right to believe what they want to believe and be who they are, which is definitely stuff that the KKK fights against. But I felt like there were enough messages. Like I can't remember the exact phrase, but there's a phrase that gets tossed around a lot in the film that is very reminiscent of "Make America Great Again." So I'm like, okay, and I get, obviously Spike Lee is very anti-Trump and everything, which, again, I think directors and screenwriters and really anybody has the right to, to say what they want to say. But I felt like there was enough of that in the movie where you didn't need, on top of that, the devastating footage, and it's real news footage of the Charlottesville protests and how that just went so violent and just so terrible. And to see the real David Duke and stuff. Now, obviously, in the film, it was, I thought Topher Grace as David Duke was probably, other than John David Washington, the standout in the cast. I know a lot of people are kind of vetting for Adam Driver to get his first nomination for the film. And I thought he was fine. I felt, he played his role to the best he could, and his character does have a lot going on in the plot, sure. So I understand why, people are approaching him as probably the standout of the cast here, but for me, I thought it was Topher Grace. It was not just because, for me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of him. Like, I love that '70s show, but after the first couple seasons, his character, Eric Foreman, really grained on me. And I was like, okay, enough. And I felt like it wasn't so much the writing in that show, it was just his personality coming through. And it was like, after a while, you kind of just get used to his character, and you're just like, okay, I'm kind of done with you. Being that, the very sarcastic, kind of snotty character that he is, always making the wrong decisions and everything. And I know he's the lead character on the show and everything, but still, I just felt like the way he brought such a class to his character and such a charisma, it's very reminiscent of like Christopher Plummer in All the Money in the World, or more like Idris Elba in Beast of No Nation, where they're very vile, bad people, so wrong-headed and just so against, moral goodness and everything. But at the same time, there is such charisma and just such class to those characters that you just love them and you love to hate them. And it's like Topher Grace, I of those three examples, he's probably the ranked lowest, but still, I thought he very much came to play for that role, and that's obviously not an easy role to play. So I wanted to give kind of hats tip to him as well. Between all the supporting characters in that movie, other than with John David Washington being the lead character, I thought Topher was probably the best of the supporting cast there. But the reason I'm going back to Spike Lee here for director is, number one, the historical aspect of it. Number two, he directed the hell out of this movie. I mean, in particular, there's a couple of scenes, like the two standouts for me are early on when, okay, I'm going to go ahead and just look at the plot description here again. I can't remember the character's name, but, and he's a real-life, Kwame Ture, I think is how I'm pronouncing his name. If I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, sorry, but Kwame Ture, or I'm pretty sure that's how they pronounced it. I'll need to watch the film again, and I do really want to watch the film again. For me, it's very reminiscent of Django Unchained, where it's like, it's a subject matter that's very serious and everything, but at the same time, it's approached in a way where it's very down to earth and in some ways very comedic. I really liked Spike Lee's approach to the story too. But there's one scene where he's speaking, and he's it's kind of a very Black Power, huge Black Panther, not the character. Now we got to have that conversation. But yeah, but the very Black Panther kind of pro speech that he's giving, and he's saying all these statements, and at the same time they're showing him, and at the in the same frame they're kind of dissolving to all these members of the audience who are who are agreeing and listening intently, and it was a very well directed scene. And at the same time, later on in the film, there's a scene where Duke is doing the kind of inauguration ceremony for a couple of KKK members, and that's intercut with Harry Belafonte, who I always love to see in the movie. Always love seeing him. Kind of telling a story about his best friend who was very wrongfully murdered, just flat out murdered for being a black man in the wrong part of town, or whatever, and being accused of I think it was rape or whatever it was. So that the intercutting on that, when you have this disgusting ceremony going on at the same time, this really heartfelt, well, not heartfelt story, but very again, kind of disgusting circumstance story where it's like, oh, you just hate to hear all this happening, and it's like just the way it's intercut, I thought was genius, absolutely genius. And again, like that style, again, to bring this and not make it a huge melodrama, but instead to kind of look at the fact that there were a lot of KKK members who were just drunken idiots, and people who were just really just dumb characters, and the way that was approached and executed, I thought was genius. So it's I would definitely say Chris McQuarrie's direction of Mission Impossible Fallout was great, but if we're looking at like directorial achievement, Spike Lee is, of the films I've seen this year, number one. He just, again, directed the hell out of this movie, and I'm so pleased with him particularly, because it's been since Malcolm X, I can't think of another film of his that I've seen that I really enjoyed, or at least up to that level of those first couple films he did. But this, I think, is right up there, and if it's not his best film, because, I mean, Do the Right Thing and Malcolm X are two incredible movies. This is definitely, up there as one of his best films, just overall, I think. Again, and the only thing, again, that does keep me from calling it the best film of the year so far is just, not really needing that final newsreel footage. But yeah, obviously, again, I know a lot of people that love the movie in particular for that. I just happen to disagree on that little point there. But yeah, I did very much enjoy the experience of that, and I do hope it does become an Oscar contender. And it is Focus Features behind it, which is they're usually a good bellwether and a good studio that know how to campaign. Okay, another one I haven't seen yet is Crazy Rich Asians. It's just making bank at the box office. It's been number one 3 weekends in a row, and looking at competition this weekend, we could see, I think definitely The Nun's going to overtake it at the box office here in the States, but it's definitely going to be continuing to be one of the biggest films of the late summer, early fall season. And I know it, and because we do see Asian Americans very underrepresented when it comes to not just Oscars, but just Hollywood movies and movies in general, it's a real moment to kind of acknowledge that and definitely say that this is a big celebration for everybody who loves those kind of movies. And again, I haven't seen it yet just because of time's sakes, but I do very much plan on seeing it. And yeah, it's getting great reviews too. So as far as its Oscar chances, though, Best Picture is probably it's very reminiscent for me of like Get Out last year, where I was very hesitant to put it into my Oscar predictions early because I'm like, okay, well, it's number one, it's a horror kind of comedy. For me, I view it as just a plain horror film. But it is in ways a horror comedy, which the Oscars have never gone for. I mean, very rarely. I mean, you can call, I can't even think of an example. It's like Silence of the Lambs was pure horror, kind of thriller, terror kind of film. Sixth Sense was the same deal. It's like, traditionally they don't really go for anything horror and comedy mix. Stuff like The Exorcist, 45 years ago now, was just a straight up horror film. So, obviously that broke in a big way last year, but I was very hesitant early on, number one for that. Number two, because I was like, I don't, right away, I didn't really see Jordan Peele in the Best Director race. I didn't see Daniel Kaluuya in the acting race. Screenplay I saw. Screenplay and picture, I said maybe. But other than that, I didn't really see it. Maybe editing, and that was about it. And then, later on, I kind of changed my mind on that. But, kind of the same deal with Crazy Rich Asians. It's like, if you really want to be a big contender in that Best Picture category, you have to have a film editing nomination for sure, or at least be highly nominated. Like there's been films like obviously like Birdman a few years ago that didn't have that editing nomination, but was the most nominated film of the year, and so on. And with Crazy Rich Asians, it's like other than the picture itself, again, it's an adapted screenplay, so that screenplay race is really crazy this year. And then a lot of people are pointing out Michelle Yeoh as maybe a possibility for supporting actress. I mean, that's maybe three nominations there. Right now. I don't see John M. Chu being in the director race, even though a lot of people are giving him a lot of good reviews for it and everything. It's kind of tough at this rate for me to see it getting into that Best Picture race. But again, I'll just mention it here. Okay, then really that's about it for stuff that's out already. The rest of this is all stuff that's either on the festival circuit or will just be premiering in general. Over the next few weeks, whether that's at Toronto or it's already played at a festival now, or if it's just going to be released kind of sight unseen to the public in November or December. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and right now we'll take a look at the films that have already played at this moment on the festival circuit that have been reviewed. Let's see. We'll start. This is really in no particular order here, but Roma is a new film from Alfonso Cuarón, and it's being distributed by Netflix. It's at a 95% right now on Rotten Tomatoes, average rating of 8.9 out of 10. So that's it's one of the best reviewed films of all of the festival circuit's releases so far. And yeah, I have this definitely as a best picture director possibilities. It is an original screenplay, so that could break in. Actually, I can't. Do I have it in right now? Let's see. Yeah, I'm on Gold Derby too, just as a predictor. I mean, I don't have any official capacity there or anything, but I do. Okay, I do have it in for original screenplay too. Yeah, so that one. And another thing, I think Netflix has finally learned their lesson here. Obviously, they did break in a big way last year with Mudbound, getting 4 big nominations. Is that they're planning on, at least with this one, maybe with Buster Scruggs, maybe with 22 July, and they have Kindergarten Teacher also out this year. I think those are their 4 big players. I might be missing one, and we'll come on it later. But at the moment, Netflix is planning on a short limited release, possibly before the Netflix premiere dates. Like Roma is going to be on Netflix, I believe, in either October or November. Let's see. Kindergarten Teacher is in October. Let's see. The other 2, Buster Scruggs, I believe, is coming out in November. Is it November or September? I think it's November. And I can't even remember the other one now. Other Side of the Wind is also going to be released through Netflix. I don't know if they're going to actually push that for an Oscar contender or not, but I have that one written down too. 22 July, yeah. That one, I believe, is also coming out in October. So we'll see if they want to plan a theatrical release like a couple weeks before or the week before, or if they want to save it for what they did with Beasts of No Nation, where that came out the same day in theaters and on Netflix streaming, which I think did big time hurt that film. Definitely with the hoity-toity theater owners. And I think I kind of sided with them on that one, where I was like, of course, who's going to come to your theater, your way of living, if the movie's free on Netflix, as long as you have a subscription, or if you have the passcode from somebody who has a subscription. It's like, I understood their points 100%. So yeah, with that one, I do think this and Other Side of the Wind, if that is a big Oscar contender, and Kindergarten Teacher and Buster Scruggs, all could be big players this year for Best Picture. So yeah, I'm definitely, last year, at least up to the nomination stage, I was very like, sorry guys, but like Mudbound and a couple of the other Netflix, I said they're not going to be nominated. They're not, because they're not over their Netflix bias yet, but I think that bias has kind of passed now. So yeah, now on I'm going to count their films in much higher regard than I did last year. Then we've got The Old Man and the Gun, which is supposedly Robert Redford's final acting performance. That one was at Telluride. Roma, by the way, will be at Telluride, TIFF, and was also at Venice. So that one is one that did the full circuit there. Old Man and the Gun, though, is just at Telluride and will be at TIFF as well. So far, it's 100%. I think it was only like 4 or 5 reviews right now, so it's not a ton. Average rating of 8 out of 10, so we'll see. I am looking forward to this one, Old Man and the Gun. I do think it looks pretty good. And yeah, we'll see if Redford and that he wasn't nominated for All Is Lost, so this might be a way to make that up, as well as a final kind of capping the feathering the cap nomination, if you will, for that. Then we've got Mike Leigh's new film Peterloo, which is at 89% right now, 7.2 out of 10 average rating. This one is at all three of the festivals, and it kind of looks interesting to me. I've heard it's like over 2.5 hours, so that might hurt it a little bit. But Mike Leigh usually is one we can definitely ponder for Oscar consideration, especially after like Secrets and Lies and Topsy Turvy and a couple of those other films from the '90s that took off. And now, even though Mr. Turner wasn't a big player in like Best Actor or Best Picture or Best Director or anything, it did manage a few really good tech category nominations. Okay, then we've got The Favorite, Yorgos Lanthimos' new film. It's at 100% right now. I believe this one is also at all three film festivals. Actually, no, it's not at Toronto, I don't believe. And it's got an average rating of 9 out of 10. So that's, I believe, as far as the average rating goes, the highest, and this is all on Rotten Tomatoes, of course, the highest rated, I believe, for the average rating. And it's obviously at 100%. So, yeah, this might be the big one of the big critical darlings of the year. Plus, it is Yorgos, who has really, been a non-player at the Oscars the last couple of years with stuff like The Lobster, which did get an original screenplay nomination, and last year with The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which was kind of more of a cult kind of film. But yeah, Yorgos usually kind of stays away from the mainstream. It's like, even though stuff like The Lobster and Killing of a Sacred Deer do make a little bit of money, even at the limited box office, this might be one that breaks out and actually does 10, 20, 30 million or more, especially with like Olivia Colman and Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz in the cast. Let's see, and then you got White Boy Rick, which is one I was starting to really like. The previews, I think, looked decent for it and everything. With Matthew McConaughey, he looks like he'll be going for supporting actor in this, and he might be. Him and Bruce Dern as well are I guess both going to be competing for supporting actor in the of that cast. Only has 4 reviews right now on Rotten Tomatoes, and all 4 of them, except for one, are negative. So that would be 25%. Average rating I've calculated to be out to by about 6.7 out of 10. So that one might be one that they took to the festivals. It's also going to be a TIFF. Might just be a non-player. Yeah, we already mentioned Other Side of the Wind, which, Orson Welles' last film. They're completing it, and they've got like John Huston and Peter Bogdanovich and a couple other. Doug Bogdanovich is still with us, but like a lot of other actors in the film are no longer with us. So that would be kind of strange. Again, I don't know how hard Netflix is going to push this film to be in the Oscar race. But if they are, it's like, wow, we could see John Huston nominated for the first time. It'd be obviously a lot of posthumous nominations here, and I don't know if they would give full credit to Orson Welles if they want to put it in the Best Director race. But since they do have, I think it was a team of editors and directors and kind of so on and so forth, kind of come together to put it all in a finished package. But it is at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, 8.2 out of 10 for the average rating. So yeah, it's being very well regarded in that way. Again, maybe part of that is just because it is Orson Welles, and it's just such a legendary kind of project that took decades to complete and everything. So maybe that's more out of respect than anything else. But again, I don't know, and we'll have to see the film when it's released on Netflix there. Then the new Melissa McCarthy movie, Can You Ever Forgive Me, is coming out in October, but that one's doing a couple of the festivals here, like Telluride and Toronto. So far, all positive reviews. And they just happen to be reviewers who didn't post their like official rating, like out of 5 or out of 10 or whatever. So yeah, that one's just at, I think it was only 3 or 4 reviews at this point. Then we have First Man, the new Damien Chazelle film. 8.2 was the average rating out of 10 at 86% right now on Rotten Tomatoes. That will be at TIFF as well, so that's another one that's at all 3 festivals. And this one I think will be right now I just have it as the favorite right now for Best Picture just because it is Damien Chazelle and it's Ryan Gosling and it's Josh Singer and all that. And it does look like Ryan Gosling will be in the race again for Best Actor. Claire Foy will be in for Supporting Actress. Obviously, Chazelle will be in for Director. And pretty much, other than Josh Singer being the writer, I think he'll be up for adapted screenplay. Other than those, it's like the rest of the crew, I think, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions, is all the people from La La Land. So they could be easily looking at another nomination. Like it's Linus Sandgren, I believe is his name, for the cinematographer. Tom Cross, the editor. Justin Hurwitz is the music guy. So yeah, so we could see a lot of, again, that could be a 10 plus nomination film. Yeah, because we could see sound categories. I'm not sure about visual effects. Could be. I don't know how effects heavy the film is. We got cinematography, maybe production design, original score. Then we've got screenplay, 2 acting, director, picture. That's 10 right there, and it could, maybe a couple more depending on the other stuff. Okay, we already mentioned Frontrunner. That's at, I think it only has 4 reviews at this point, 3 of them fresh, 1 of them rotten, so that's 75%, 8.3 being the calculated average rating at this point. Again, yeah, we'll see. Jason Reitman has kind of been ostracized a little bit from the Oscars after a couple kind of stinker films in there and ones that didn't pop up on the Oscar list, so we'll see if he can come back with this one. Okay, then we've got Nicole Kidman's new kind of cop thriller Destroyer, which is one there's no previews or anything out for it yet, so I haven't seen any of the footage. But 8.2 average rating out of 10, 80% so far, just out of 5 reviews, I think. So yeah, that one comes out in December. Boy Erased is at an 8.4 out of 10 average rating, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes out of Telluride. And Joel Edgerton, I haven't seen his movie The Gift, but it looks like he might actually break in as a big, well-respected director on top of being an actor. So good for him. On this one, he has a supporting role in the film. Lucas Hedges, I think, will be a threat for Best Actor. I could see it breaking into the Best Picture race. It could. Not saying it will right now, just based on reviews or anything, but it could. I don't know if we'll see Joel break in for either supporting actor or director or both. He also has a hand in the screenplay. Nicole Kidman, it sounds like she's got a really good part in it for supporting actress, kind of similar to Lion a couple of years ago, where she, even though I didn't like the movie, I liked her and Dev Patel and their performances especially. Okay, then we've got A Star Is Born, which is going to be at all 3 festivals. That one, except Telluride, 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, average rating is 7.5 out of 10. I was kind of all over the map with this one because it was originally supposed to come out in May of this year, then it was supposed to be fall last year, and it's been switched a couple times. And it is the 4th film with, the name A Star Is Born. So it's like, what's kind of left to do other than just a, very modern retelling. But it looks like critics are on board with this one. And I did read a couple of reviews that said Bradley Cooper maybe gives one of his best, if not his best, performance in the film to date. So that's kind of interesting to hear. Now this one I think will be a huge player at the box office. I can easily, right now I think the estimates are putting it at opening of $44 million when it opens about a month from now. And I definitely see that. I could see 50 million plus because it is Lady Gaga, it is Bradley Cooper, it's a musical of sorts, and it's, we've also got, I do think Lady Gaga is, potentially could break in for Best Actress. We did see her almost win for that, the song. And she did, the year before did a very good tribute to Sound of Music, which was really the highlight of that whole Oscar cast because I think that was the Neil Patrick Harris year. Oh man. Anyways, So I think she's on the Oscar radar for sure. And if she gets a lot of good glowing reviews, then I think she could break into Best Actress. We'll see if Cooper can make his 4th nomination. Whether that's for director, actor. He's also producer on the film, so he'd be up for Best Picture. He's also in the screenplay, so again, we'll see. Since it is an adapted screenplay, we'll see how tough that is. But anyways, he could be nominated for all 4. He could be nominated for just 1 or none. We don't know yet. Sam Elliott, it also looks like has kind of a friendlier role for supporting actor, being the stage manager and kind of the agent for Cooper's character. And it looks like from the previews, he's got a couple of good scenes with him, so he could get his first nomination for that. And yeah, I do think it is a threat for Best Picture for sure. It'll probably be up. I'm sure there's some original songs too. That'll probably be a threat in that category. I think it'll do very well at the Globes as well. So I think it's probably heading for at least 3 or 4 nominations here. Then we got The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, the new Coen Brothers film. This was originally intended to be a Netflix kind of mini-series, but now they've kind of shortened it down to a 2-hour, 15 or so minute film. 93% on Rotten Tomatoes with an average rating of 7.7 out of 10. I know it was at Venice, and I know it'll be at, I think it was at Telluride too. I'm not for sure. And again, I think it comes out on Netflix either later this month or November, but I believe it should be November because I haven't seen a preview for it or anything yet. And, being an anthology kind of film, that really doesn't open it up to a ton of categories. Traditionally, those kind of films don't get big nominations at the Oscars. It is Coen Brothers though, so I definitely think original screenplay is going to be the best bet for the film. Maybe director if it's one of those kind of films. We'll see. We'll see if Netflix can get it in for Best Picture. We'll see about the acting race. Like I do know, since it is anthology, they're probably all going to be in the supporting categories. Tim Blake Nelson, I think, is the title character Buster Scruggs, so maybe he gets his first nom for his work in that. Okay, then we got Suspiria. This for me, Suspiria is probably my most anticipated film of the rest of the year. Number one, I think it's a genius move to put Luca Guadagnino on this, especially after Call Me by Your Name last year. Genius move to put him on this movie, and the cast is looking really great. The previews were phenomenal. I think that first preview, that first trailer, I watched like 6 or 7 times the first day it came out. I was just so mesmerized, and the score, and it was like, oh, this is so great. The second preview I didn't like quite as much, but it was still a very effective trailer and everything. The first clip was pretty effective. 62%. Critics are split right down the middle on this one. And it kind of upset me a little bit because I was hoping this would be like, another kind of big horror movie to break into the Oscar race, but might not be the case this year. So yeah, I was hoping like a Best Picture, maybe making up for last year, because I do think Luca probably should have been one of the 5 directors nominated last year. Definitely for me over Greta Gerwig. Sorry, but I think he should have been nominated over her. Who else was nominated last year? Definitely, Guillermo did a better job. I definitely would have seen. I can't think of his name now. Martin McDonagh, the guy who did 3 Billboards. Definitely, he should have been in that Best Director race for sure too. So yeah, This I was hoping that would be a way to make it up. But that being said, though, average rating is an 8.6 out of 10, which is one of the higher ones of all these early kind of ratings here. Third highest, actually, the list here. But again, I think that's just because a lot of the people who didn't like it just negative review. They didn't give their actual score out of 5 or out of 10. So yeah, that kind of hurts it there in a way. So yeah, I'm hoping it's number one. I hope it's a good movie after the reviews have been so split. But and a lot of people I know that liked it loved it. So yeah. Okay, then we've got Sisters Brothers is the last one here that's played so far at the festivals and has been reviewed at this rate. And it's 91% of Rotten Tomatoes, 7.9 out of 10 average rating. This one, I don't know if it's going to be a big player at the Oscars. I was kind of said on my Cultured Vultures article, I said, this might be a bigger player at the Globes because it looks like it'll be in that comedy musical category, at least from the trailers and stuff. I could be wrong about that. They could switch it. They could rule it as a drama. But it looks like, both Joaquin Phoenix and John C. Reilly, and of the two, Reilly's getting the better reviews. Both of them, or for sure Reilly or for sure Phoenix, it could be either one, will get a nomination for Best Actor and at the Globes. I was thinking, at least at that time, for comedy or musical. We'll see if that's how it's classified or if they put it in the drama race or what they do there. But yeah, so that one... And yeah, the trailers do look pretty good for it. Again, I'm not sure outside of maybe some love for either one of them or both of them. I don't know how well it's going to play at the Oscars there. Okay, also at now Telluride's all wrapped up for the most part. We've still got 22 July and Vox Lux playing at the Venice Film Festivals. Vox Lux does not have a release date set yet. I believe it doesn't have a distributor either. So that one, I could be wrong about that. I can actually try to find that right here. It's a new Natalie Portman film, and it's let's see, they've got a production company. Yeah, they've got production companies on it, obviously. But Bold Films, I believe they've distributed before. So okay, but yeah, they don't have a release date locked down yet. So they might not get it released in time to qualify for this year's Oscars. They might wait till next year. But it did look like, and they don't have they did release finally a preview for it. Just a little short teaser trailer. It didn't give anything away, but it's classified as a music drama. So they could technically go for that comedy musical category at the Globes. We could see Natalie Portman nominated there for the first time in a couple of years. We also got Jude Law and Raffi Cassidy and a couple others in the cast there, so we'll see. It kind of sounds like an interesting project, so I don't know, again, how big a player that's going to be at the Oscars either, but But yeah, that's one to mention. Then 22 July is Paul Greengrass's new film about the terrorist attacks in Norway on the 22nd of July in 2011. So, and the last time he did a big terrorist kind of movie like that was, United 93, which was a big, big hit at the Oscars. Did okay at the box office and everything. And then also he did, Captain Phillips a couple of years ago, and that, was a Best Picture nominee and got a few other nominations. Probably should have gotten more, but I did like that one quite a bit. But anyways, yeah, so that's it for the films that have, and those two will be playing here over the next, actually Vox Lux is playing today. I'm recording this, I should say, on the 3rd of September. That's playing later on today. Actually, we might have reviews for that up. I'm going to check this in real time here just to see if they've posted reviews yet, because I believe the screenings, because where I'm at, it's about a 5, 6, or 7 hours difference. Yeah, so no reviews on that yet. So yeah, we'll see about that one. And 22 July will come out on Netflix in October, so we'll see how that one does. Again, I think probably the one, if I had to guess right now, Netflix, they're probably going to put all their chips on Alfonso Cuarón and Roma. We'll see. 20 July could be just as impressive, or it could be better than Roma. I don't know. But, yeah, right now it looks like all the chips are going to go on Roma for Netflix as far as, like, the Best Picture and Director races and stuff. It doesn't look like there's any big players in the cast for that one, for the acting races. It could be kind of like Gravity in that way. Well, even then, Sandra Bullock did break in for Best Actress. So, yeah. So we'll have to see there. Okay, so now that that's over, we'll move on to the to the calendar for TIFF, and we've got really quite a few films premiering there. We've got like Outlaw King is going to be the opening film. A new Netflix film. It's Dave McKenzie, the guy who did Hell or High Water a couple of years ago. He's got Chris Pine back in that, and so on. Usually the opening film for TIFF as a non-player at the Oscars, or a film that ends up being a big disappointment. So we'll see about that. I haven't seen the trailer yet for Outlaw King, but it's like, I was hoping that film wouldn't be in that spot. Okay, then we've got Beautiful Boy will open the next day. We've also got Hate You Give. Vox Lux will be playing there, and White Boy Rick. The opening film, by the way, it's on September 6th, and September 7th is the next day those crop of films are. Beautiful Boy, I'm really looking forward to this one. I think the trailer was probably one of the best. Suspiria's trailers were really great too. But Beautiful Boy's trailer was phenomenal. I loved it. I think Steve Carell will probably be lead actor, and can't think of his name now. The guy from Call Me by Your Name. Damn, I can't think of it right now. Shit. Okay, I gotta cheat here. It's Timothée Chalamet, of course, yeah. He'll probably go, looks like from the trailer and stuff, he'll be the supporting role. If they're smart, they'll do it that way, where it's one is lead and one is supporting. They've also got Maura Tierney and Amy Ryan in the supporting cast there for, both could be contenders in the supporting actress race. It's the director's name, I'm going to relook again here, Felix Van Groningen. I could see him breaking into Best Director for this. Sometimes they like those more personal kind of family dramas, like we saw that with Manchester by the Sea, or even years ago to something like Terms of Endearment. And this film does have a very Terms of Endearment kind of vibe to it, even though it's a totally different subject matter and everything. It's, the parental relationship there between father and son and mother and daughter is very reminiscent there. So yeah, I'm thinking that could be a big player. I think adapted screenplay is definitely a high possibility there. The Hate You Give is one. I saw the trailer for it, and I was like, at first I kind of thought it'd be a big kind of studio production, and it's kind of not to say fluffed up version, but a very mainstream version of a very racially driven topic. But it does look like there's a lot of restraint, just from the trailer at least. Again, maybe the finished film is a lot more mainstream than it looks, but it does look like there's going to be a lot of restraint there, and it looks like it's a very, a film that was kind of with an independent mind and everything, just happened to be released by a major studio there. So that one I can see, again, maybe breaking into the Best Adapted Screenplay race if it's not too complex there. The lead actress, Amandla Stenberg, She looks like she has a pretty good role in that, so maybe she gets some love for Best Actress for that. I don't know. I mean, we did say Quvenzhané Wallis did get nominated a couple of years ago for Beast of the Southern Wild. I keep forgetting that one. But anyways, yeah. So we'll see about that. We already talked about Vox Lux a little bit. We talked about White Boy Rick. The next day, 22 July, we'll screen there. We've also got Ben is Back, Can You Ever Forgive Me, Life Itself, The Front Runner, and The Sisters, Brothers, and Widows. And that's on September 8th. Yeah, we talked about a few of those already. Ben is Back is one, again, they had a short preview come out. It kind of looks, I don't know, it didn't really give much away. And Lucas Hedges, again, lead actor in that. Julia Robertson. It looks like she could go either supporting or lead. Really just depends on her screen time there. And Peter Hedges, by the way, is the director. And he's been nominated for the screenplay of About a Boy and stuff. And, yep, I did look it up, and it is confirmed he is the father of Lucas Hedges. So, yeah. Anyway, so that one, again, the very short preview, so I didn't get a good read on whether it's going to be a big contender or if it's, how it's going to play, but want to mention that one. We're going to talk about Can You Ever Forgive Me? Life Itself. This is, again, I don't watch the show, This Is Us, but the creator of that show is the director here, and I'm going to get his name in a second. Dan Fogelman, there we go. I would say the name was familiar. And he's got a hell of an ensemble cast here with like Oscar Isaac and Olivia Wilde, Mandy Patinkin, Olivia Cook, Leah Costa, Annette Bening, Antonio Banderas, even Samuel L. Jackson has a role in it, but he's in everything. And this one, the trailers do look like a very schmaltzy kind of studio production there, very much aiming for that mainstream market. So I'm not as high on this one. But, being a player at TIFF doesn't guarantee you're going to be in the Oscar race, but it's definitely something to add to the pedigree there. So I did want to mention that one in case it does take off here in the next few weeks. Let's see, then, yeah, we already mentioned Sisters, Brothers, and Widows. Now, this is Steve McQueen's new film. Very, very interesting subject matter here. It's based on an old, I believe it's 80s British series of the same name. And, I mean, the cast, again, this is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest ensemble of the year. You got Viola Davis, Michelle Rodriguez, Elizabeth Debicki, Cynthia Erivo, who I'm not familiar with. We got Colin Farrell, Brian Tyree Henry, Daniel Kaluuya. We've got Carrie Coon, Jackie Weaver, John Bernthal, Robert Duvall, and Liam Neeson in the film. I mean, hell of a cast. Really great. Not only do we have, this is Steve McQueen's first film since 12 Years a Slave, but also got Gillian, or I can't remember if it's Gillian or Jillian, but Gillian Flynn, screenwriter of Gone Girl, and also the author, is she and McQueen are writing the script here. It will be premiering again on the 8th there. So that this one I'm really excited about. The trailers have been very good. I do think Viola Davis will definitely be in the lead actress race. I'm putting my money, though, with all the supporting characters and everything, I'm thinking Daniel Kaluuya is going to be the one we go to for supporting actor. And I just had, I can't remember if this was on camera last year, but I kind of mentioned, I was like, obviously Gary Oldman was going to win Best Actor last year no matter what. But I kind of consistently mentioned how Kaluuya kept getting a lot of love at the ceremonies, whether that's when his name was called for announcing the nominees, at the actual stuff, or on the actual show when they again kind of name off the nominees as kind of a final acknowledgement before they name the winner. Both times Kaluuya got a huge response from the crowd, and so I think he's a very very popular actor in that way. And I do think, and I can't remember if I said it on camera, or if I just said it to the people around me, but I said, next time he's in a big movie like this, I said, watch out. He's probably going to be the winner, or he's going to be highly in contention. This is it, Widows. I think he'll break in and be a supporting actor nominee for this. Okay, then we've got the next day is the 9th. Star is Born. We've got First Man will play there, If Beale Street Could Talk, mid-90s. And yeah, then a lot of these, like, I've written down all the films that are playing on that day. So like a lot of them, like Ben is Back is playing on that day as well. Can You Ever Forgive Me is playing on that day as well. Sisters, Brothers is also playing on that day, and Widows is also playing on that day. So I just have that written up, so I'm kind of jumping around. That's why. Anyway, so yeah, we already mentioned a couple of those, including First Man. If Beale Street Could Talk, obviously Barry Jenkins' new film. This one, I'm putting an early bid on this one being a nominee for, obviously Best Picture and I think Best Director. I have it as the early bid to win Adapted Screenplay. I think Regina King is going to be nominated for supporting actress. Just from the trailer, it looked like she's going to have that kind of motherly role that was nominated for like Naomi Harris in Moonlight, and I think you guys remember. Yeah, I wasn't as big on Moonlight as everybody else was, but the trailer for this, If Beale Street Could Talk, looked phenomenal. I can't lie, it looked terrific. And then the lead actress in this is I'd never heard of her before, but it's Kiki Lane. I've heard of Stephen James. He's kind of his character. I'm not sure if he's going to go lead or supporting, but they're a couple in the movie. I think this is also what the book's about. They're a couple. They get pregnant, and then Stephen gets taken away because and falsely accused of raping a woman. I believe it's a white woman too. So that of course brings in the racial conflict there. So yeah, The Hate U Give, Black Klansman are kind of the more racially driven conversation films of the year. And I think there was one more, if I'm not forgetting right now. Yeah, those three are kind of the big ones. If there's another one, Green Book. We'll mention Green Book in a little bit. That's also a very kind of racially motivated film in that way. So we'll get to that one in a little bit too. But If Beale Street Could Talk, I think will be a big Oscar player, and we could be looking at kind of the same number of nominations that Moonlight got easily. Yeah, we'll see if Kiki Lane can be a lead actress contender. We'll see if, in the same way that Mahershala, Ali won supporting actor that year, was kind of an early bid and stuff. We'll see if Kiki Lane, even though she doesn't have the pedigree yet of somebody like Mahershala, who I knew for years on House of Cards before the movie came out, and had been around the block a little bit before that first nomination and win for him. We'll see if Kiki can have that same luck, or if Stefan can have that same luck. So we'll see there. Again, I think Kiki will be lead, and Stefan, if they're smart, again, I don't know yet, because I don't know how much screen time he's going to have, but if it's smart in a way, I think it's smarter in a way to put him in supporting if that's an option. Again, unless he's in like every scene of the movie except one or two, then obviously he's a lead character. But yeah, that's the thing is, since he's not a big household name, it might not work out if you just put him in lead and kind of stick him there, because I think lead actor will have a little bit of competition to it this year. Then again, I could be wrong. He could break in and be like Daniel Kaluuya last year and totally blow us all away. Okay, then we've got mid-90s. This is one, I've seen the preview for it a couple of times. It's Jonah Hill's directorial debut, and it's, the skating kind of drama set in the mid-90s in L.A. And Lucas Hedges in this one, too, and what's her name? Waterston. I gotta cheat again. She's in the Fantastic Beasts movies, too. Catherine Waterston, there we go. Yeah, she's in this as well. I don't know how well that'll be received. I know we've got the what's their names doing the score. Reznor and Trent Reznor and what's his name are doing the score. I'm gonna look it up just so I get this right. But they're doing the score for it, which usually they come onto projects. Atticus Ross, there we go. Yeah, those two are doing the score there. It's coming out in mid-October. Again, since it's not typically a piece that the Academy looks at. Jonah Hill does have 2 nominations, though, so that kind of helps him. Yeah, so we'll see about if that one takes off or not. Let's see here. Then we had a lot of repeats there. Then on the 10th, we've got Destroyer, which we already talked about a little bit. Peter Liu is also playing there. We talked about. Wildlife is going to play on the 10th as well. This one we haven't talked about. It's Jake Gyllenhaal and Carey Mulligan, kind of at odds at each other as a couple, and it's kind of their story. Both of whom I think have missed out on nominations in the past. Definitely Gyllenhaal has been overlooked for three big performances. Number one, Nightcrawler, which I think everybody else is on the same page. I thought he should have been nominated for Nocturnal Animals a couple of years ago. I thought he was phenomenal in that. And I really liked him a lot in Stronger last year, too. He kind of missed out on all 3 of those. And Carey, I thought, I did see the Suffragette movie from a couple of years ago, or 3 years ago at this rate. And she was easily the best part of that movie and probably should have been a nominee for lead actress that year. So, and that's the directorial debut of Paul Dano. So we'll see. That one did get a lot of great reviews at Sundance this year. Okay, then we'll get to Boy Erased is also playing here on the 11th. Colette, that's one we'll talk about. And Green Book. And the other one's playing that day we've already talked about. Colette is Keira Knightley's next film. Looks like she could be a big player this year for Best Actress. Definitely, it's kind of that another true story, and it's kind of set in the early 1900s England, and looks like it'll definitely be up for like costume design and production design stuff like that. So yeah, that one looks. I think it looks good. The trailers look pretty good for it. Then we got Green Book, which is surprisingly it's from one of the Fairley brothers, and it's a big kind of race drama. We do have Mahershala in this one and Viggo Mortensen. Again, I don't know if they're going to go both lead on this since it looks like it is kind of that way. If not, then they'll probably go Viggo lead and Mahershala supporting. I don't know if they'll swap them or not, but the trailer I thought looked decent. Maybe not like one of the most anticipated or one of the best films of the rest of the year, but definitely one to keep an eye on. And so we'll see how that one turns out. But coming from one of the Fairley brothers, the road trip aspect, it's like okay, that was a big part of Dumb and Dumber and a big part of Kingpin. The other one they did that I didn't see, Stuck on You, I think was also didn't that have a road trip aspect to it? Yeah. So yeah, I know a lot of their and yeah that's two of their early hits, Dumb and Dumber and Kingpin, comedy classics by the way. Both were kind of road trip aspects. So we'll see if maybe that plays in well with the drama of Green Book there. Okay, then we've got the next day are all films we've already talked about. And the last one here I think that we haven't mentioned yet is Kindergarten Teacher, which is Maggie Gyllenhaal's new film. This one is also a Netflix contender coming out in October. Haven't seen the trailer for it yet. It also played at Sundance. I believe it got a lot of good reviews there. So yeah, we'll see if she can break in for Best Actress. Right now, I don't have her in, but it's like yeah, that could easily happen. She's been nominated before, and I think she's definitely one they keep an eye on at the Academy there. Okay, I think that's that's a lot of them out of the way here for what's coming out, what's at the festivals and stuff. There's a couple more here. Like obviously, there's some stuff that comes out in November and December that typically doesn't play until the later festivals or it just comes out sight unseen and just opens, kind of cold open when it comes to theaters. One of those I'm kind of surprised is not at a festival, at least not at this rate. Let's see, I can look again here. I did miss, okay, I missed this one. On the 9th, we also have Children Act, The Children Act. That's Emma Thompson's new film. And I will make sure I get that added to my list here. For whatever reason, it doesn't want me to type that. Okay. This one, it's kind of a true life story about Fiona May, who was on the British court and helped pass the Children Act. And it comes out in September there in the States. It's actually already playing over in the UK. And let's see, actually, let me look up a couple reviews, see if that one's any good. But I do think Emma did miss out on that nomination for Saving Mr. Banks, which she probably should have gotten. And for whatever reason, I can't get children spelled right. So, okay, what's it at? 70% right now on Rotten Tomatoes, just off of reviews there. Averaging 6.2 out of 10, so that's not terrible, but it sounds like a lot of the reviews here, just reading the little blurbs they give on Rotten Tomatoes, it looks like a lot of them are saying it's good work from Emma Thompson and good work from the director of the film. Let's see, where's his name at? Richard Eyre, who did Iris and Notes on a Scandal. So, we'll see if that one turns out for him as well. Let's see, then we had, I think that's it for September. Yeah, the rest of them are all playing at festivals. And then one that played at Sundance that's not doing the fall festival circuit is The Happy Prince, Rupert Everett's new film, where he plays Oscar Wilde. This one, I wasn't really in on it until I was looking through, and I was like, okay, what's this one about? And I saw the trailer, and I was like, man, that does look pretty good. Rupert Everett, kind of shows the homosexual side of Oscar Wilde and how he was kind of ostracized for it back in 1800s England. And it looks like Rupert gives his best performance in a long, long time in it. So he's also the director and had a hand in the script. So we'll see if he can land multiple nominations or not. But and it's from Sony Pictures Classic. So I don't know how many other films they have out. They're that's kind of the first one I've seen from them, at least just on the initial lists here and stuff. So I don't know. They might have a couple other ones out, and I'm just forgetting them right now. But that one, I think, at least for the performance, looked like that might be one I'd check out for him. Okay, then we've got in November we've got just to kind of mention it, Nutcracker in the Four Realms, which the previews for me looks like a poor man's version of Alice in Wonderland, and there's been so many big screen adaptations of the classic kind of ballet and that whole story that it's like I don't know if I want to see another one. And the cast looks decent and everything, but it's like this one I'm seeing is more like a production design, costume design, visual effects, maybe the sound categories and stuff. Maybe if they throw in an original song, that will be a play or two. But anyways, yeah. Bohemian Rhapsody also comes out in November. This one I'm much more paying attention to, especially with the kind of the controversy around kind of with Bryan Singer's name still being attached as director, even though Dexter Fletcher came on to finish the film. The majority of it was Bryan Singer, so he's getting credited as solely credited, I should say, as the director there. And this one is in the original screenplay race, so yeah, that might actually get it a nomination. Anywho, so yeah, it's the Queen biopic, and it's Freddie Mercury, and I do think Rami Malek will probably be a nominee for lead actor. Let's see, we've got I don't know how far else it's going to extend out because I definitely think Best Director is going to be not even considered since Singer's name is attached to it, and there's a real stink around his name, especially in the last few months here. We'll see if it can get in for Best Picture, maybe Screenplay. It's Anthony McCartan, who was nominated a couple years ago for Theory of Everything, which I don't know why he was nominated for that, because that was one of the worst scripts I've ever seen nominated at the Oscars, just from my perspective. But I thought he did a much better job screenplay-wise with Darkest Hour, which I actually also was not a big fan of, but thought was better than Theory of Everything. But yeah, the trailers for that look phenomenal. It looks like it's well shot, especially the one part where it's Freddy's on piano and you get to see the camera is behind him. We just see his back, but we see his face reflected in the piano. As that great shots like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. We also got A Private War coming out with Rosamund Pike. She plays Marie Colvin. Yeah, Marie Colvin, a very famous journalist for the the kind of war in the Middle East and everything. And could be Rosamund Pike's next chance at a nomination for lead actress. It's also going to be adapted, and it's I believe it's at the the British Film Festival, their London Film Festival. So see if it gets good reviews there. But that comes out in November. We've got have to mention The Grinch just because it's Illumination, and sometimes they get into animated feature. The previews for it make me look like Dr. Seuss is rolling over in his grave. Yeah, it looks terrible, but yeah, we'll mention that one. Then we've got The Girl in the Spider's Web also coming out. That one, for me, I think looks great. I just recently finished reading the original books by Stieg Larsson. Those are phenomenal. Probably one of the best trilogy of books I've ever read, alongside stuff like the Foundation trilogy by Isaac Asimov and Lord of the Rings by Tolkien and so on. But yeah, Fede Alvarez, who I think is 2 for 2 on his recent efforts with Evil Dead, which, hot take, I think is better than better than the original Evil Dead, and also with Don't Breathe, which I really like too. He's 2 for 2 in that regard. He's got Claire Foy playing Elizabeth Salander, so we'll see if maybe Claire gets the double this year for lead actress and supporting actress. It's very early, so that could change, and yeah, we'll see how the film turns out. But I think it looks spectacular. That first trailer was really hard hitting and really good. Okay, then we got Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. I really was not a huge fan of that first one, and even though you've got a lot of the cast back and you've got Johnny Depp in a bigger role this time and everything, it's like the one part I did like of it, that was Dan Fogler, who played one of the magic, or non-magic, or whatever, muggle. Fuck it, we're calling him a muggle. I don't know if they don't care if they change it in the movie or not, but whatever. I liked his character a lot, and he was fun to watch. But yeah, the Eddie Redmayne character was as dull as dishwater to me. Catherine Waterston's character didn't really do it for me. I wasn't totally interested in the bad guys or their schemes or anything. I am kind of interested to see what Jude Law will do as a young Dumbledore, though. That part might get me on board to see this one. And it is, the first film was a nominee for production design and costume design, I believe. I believe it was both of them, wasn't it? me just double. I know it won for costumes. I remember that. I was kind of shocked that it did. Yes, it was up for production design too. So we'll see if the same happens to the sequel here. And then also, visual effects are in play, the sound categories, blah blah blah. Yeah, you guys know. All right. Then we've got Ralph Breaks the Internet also coming out in November. I have not seen the first Wreck-It Ralph, believe it or not, but I think I am kind of interested to see this one though, since it did have that scene in the trailer where kind of all the classic and modern Disney princesses were all gathered in a room together, and the Sarah Silverman character was kind of playing on that, and they were kind of talking about their the stereotypes and kind of the stuff that is very social justice warrior would fight today, from all the old films and stuff. That looked like a very fascinating and a clever idea. So I did like that part of the trailer at least. Again, I don't know if that's enough to get me to buy a ticket for it or not, but I do think it'll. The first film was a big player at the Oscars and won a couple of awards for animated feature. So yeah. Okay, then we got Creed 2 also coming out in November. This one I think looks phenomenal. I was a big fan of the first Creed. That probably should have been a 7, 8, 9 nomination picture for me if I was voting. But Michael B. Jordan I thought should have been nominated. Coogler should have been nominated for director and so on. And they did have a director who I was not familiar with at all, Stephen Caple Jr., come on to direct this one since Coogler was busy with Black Panther. And I kind of read up on him, and it's like a couple of his films I looked up, and the Rotten Tomato scores were not very good, and I was like, why would they go with him? I was won over. The trailer won me over. I think, it's kind of like, it looked like they picked a guy who, will probably break in with this film. So, good on them. Because I know initially they had Stallone coming back to direct this one, too. He also co-wrote the script. I was like, okay, yeah. So Sly directed, what was it, 4 of the original 6 Rocky movies or something like that. So yeah, sure, bring him back, but in the director's chair. So yeah, we'll see if he can get another nod for supporting actor or not, or if that was just a one and done with Creed, or what the deal is. But I think I'm looking forward to that one a lot. Okay, and we already talked about like Favorite and Beale Street Could Talk. We didn't mention yet Mary Queen of Scots. This one comes out in December. You've got I think a very easy call here for Saoirse Ronan to be nominated for lead actress, and Margot Robbie in the supporting role for playing Queen Elizabeth. So yeah, unless they both go lead. From the trailer and stuff, it looked like there was enough screen time for Saoirse to be the front kind of lead performer there, whereas Robbie would have enough screen time to be considered supporting actors. But you've got like Guy Pearce and Jack Lowden and David Tennant, among others, in the supporting cast there. So it could also be a player for supporting actor. I easily could see it getting in for costumes and makeup and maybe production design. It is also another adapted screenplays by Beau Willimon, who has done great work on House of Cards over the years here. So yeah, and then Jack Mathiasen, I believe, is the cinematographer here, who won at BAFTA for Gladiator, was nominated at the Oscars, also nominated at the Oscars for the Phantom of the Opera. So he's a good cinematographer there. I could see that one really being a big player. Again, it is skipping some of those festivals, or at least these early fall ones. It could play at AFI Fest. It could play at New York. Yeah, it could still land a couple screenings there. Okay, yeah, we already mentioned Ben is back. See, the Mortal Engines movie and Alita Battle Angel are also kind of some December kind of big budget releases. Both of them, I think, are kind of fighting for the same idea here, which is Mortal Engines is kind of backed by Peter Jackson, and Alita Battle Angel is backed by James Cameron. Both of whom have been big players in the past for like not only Best Picture and stuff like that, but also for like the visual effects for their films. So we'll see if Mortal Engines and Alita kind of come head to head, and we'll see which one wins a nomination, or if they can both get nominated, or if neither of them get nominated. So I'm kind of looking forward to that battle more than anything else. Other than that, I think those films are really going to be just about the effects, maybe the sound categories, and that's going to be it. We'll see about also Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the new animated Spider-Man film. Yeah, the thing is, for me at least, I thought that the animation style from the first preview, I was like, wow, this looks great. With the second preview, for whatever reason, the second trailer, I thought it's like the animation style totally changed. And I was like, wow, I didn't know if I cared for it or not. I was like, I don't really yeah, it just didn't look that appealing to me for the second trailer at least. But I do kind of like the idea of it being an animated film, and there's multiple Spider-Men in the film and everything. So I kind of like that idea, but we'll see how it plays out in the film. Okay, we've got just a few more here. We've also got Backseat, Adam McKay's follow-up to The Big Short. This one is another one I'm really waiting on, and I can't wait for that first trailer to come out because there's kind of a theory I have here, which is in the past few years we've seen like best actor contenders. Sometimes they get a heads up with like an early photo or an onset photo that comes out, and it's like, wow, look at this. We had that with the first example was Steve Carell with Foxcatcher, which was originally supposed to come out in 2013. I believe the same year we had a photo come out, and I was like, it was like, I can't believe that's Steve Carell. It's like, with all the makeup he had on in that film, I was like, he's probably going to get nominated for that. And even though it took another year, he got nominated for it. Then I got the same feeling with Birdman, Michael Keaton. There were some early set photos. I'm like, man, I haven't seen Michael Keaton in a long time, but I said that one's probably going to be a contender. Turned out he almost won the Oscar that year. And then the same with Eddie Redmayne with Danish Girl, but that was kind of an easier call, and that did end up being nominated. And then I got the same thing with Gary Oldman when the first set photos of Darkest Hour came out, and I was like, yep, that's probably a nomination right there. Same thing this year with Christian Bale for Backseat. I think he is, again, very unrecognizable for his portrayal of Dick Cheney. And, he shaved his eyebrows off and all that, and it's like, holy crap. And it is Adam McKay. He, of course, scored a nomination for The Big Short. I don't know why, for me personally. I mean, I don't think his performance is any better than, like, Steve Carell's, who I think probably should have been nominated out of that cast. He was no better than Brad Pitt or Ryan Gosling, neither of which were nominated, so, Anyways, that's just me. But I think this could easily be a big player at the Oscars, not just for picture, but also for director for Adam McKay, Christian Bale for lead actor. Amy Adams is in this too. At this point, we don't know if her role is going to be a big role or if she's going to be in the supporting category. Right now, I'm guessing the supporting category, so that's another nomination there. Sam Rockwell plays George W. Bush. I'm thinking he's going to get nominated for that. Steve Carell's playing Donald Rumsfeld. We also got Bill Pullman in the film, so there's a couple other possibilities there for supporting actor. So I'm thinking that's going to be a big player there. Annapurna is behind that one. Again, this one is skipping the festival circuit. We haven't seen a trailer yet, but I think it was Big Short. Let me just double check this because I know Big Short did play at a couple of the festivals, but let's see here. So if I can find the info on it, because I'm reading like the Wikipedia pages and stuff here, but it's like, okay, well, here's where, it filmed. I know it filmed, duh. I know it was released at some point, but I'm not seeing, because it was at one of the festivals last year. I think it was New York or AFI Fest of 2015, and it that's where it kind of got its big start there. So we'll see if the same will be true for Backseat. Okay, also in December, we've got Mary Poppins Returns. Now, I think it's kind of cannon fodder to think that this one's going to be as successful, as highly nominated as the first Mary Poppins. I mean, that was 13 nominations, including picture and director, and one for lead actress. Now, this could be the first time we see Emily Blunt nominated for Best Actress, her first nomination overall. So we could see her get in here. It's the only film, I believe, this year with Meryl Streep in it, other than Mamma Mia, which is not going to get, I don't think, any Oscar attention. But, so we've got to include Streep there as a possibility. She'd be supporting actress in this. But, and it is Rob Marshall directing, and when they worked together on Into the Woods, that ended in a nomination for her. So, we'll mention that too. Again, I think we'll easily, like, original song, original score, production design, costumes. We'll see about cinematography. We'll see if it qualifies for visual effects. We'll see about the sound categories. We'll see about... again, I'm not sure about screenplay. It'll be another adapted one. We'll see if Rob Marshall can break in again for director. It'll be the first time for him in a while. And we'll see if Walt Disney and company can carry it to Best Picture. All right, my throat is really starting to feel dry now, so we'll just really quick run through these. Aquaman is also coming out. I think visual effects, sound category is going to be about it. Bumblebee, same deal. Welcome to Marwen's kind of an interesting one. It's Steve Carell. It's his third film this year. He's the lead actor in this. It's based on a film, Marwenko, I believe is how it's pronounced. It was a documentary film, came out a few years ago, about a guy who was kind of living in a post-traumatic stress world with his dolls and a kind of mock-up version of a World War II town that he has in his backyard. It looks like an interesting idea and everything, and as Robert Zemeckis is the director, he's normally one to consider at the Oscars. But I think that, like, the animation on it is kind of creepy and everything. So yeah, I'm not sure how that one's going to turn out. Okay, the last one to mention here that's not on any of the festivals so far is On the Basis of Sex, which is the new Mimi Leder film. Felicity Jones, I think, will be up for lead actress for this as Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and that would be her second nomination. Other than that, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, it could get in for costumes and production design since it is another period piece. We've got Michael Dana, I believe is how you pronounce his name, who won for a few years ago for Life of Pi. So he could get nominated again. We'll see. Like the trailer, I was like, Armie Hammer looks, yeah, he might have a small role. And Justin Theroux, yeah, maybe they get a bid for supporting actor, and then Kathy Bates is in it too, so she'd be supporting actress. But we'll see how big a role they play and if they have a worthy role that'll get them nominated. Okay, so now really quick, we're just going to run through my very early first predictions that I have listed on Gold Derby for the categories. It's the screenplay, acting, directing, and picture, so that shouldn't take way too long. For original screenplay, I have The Favorite, Backseat, Roma, Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and 8th Grade. For adapted screenplay, very tough to whittle this down to 5, but I've got If Beale Street Could Talk, BlacKkKlansman, Beautiful Boy, First Man, and Widows. For the supporting actress race, I'm putting an early bid on Regina King to be the future front-runner for If Beale Street Could Talk, and I've got Margot Robbie in there for Mary Queen of Scots, Nicole Kidman for Boy Erased, Claire Foy for First Man, and Amy Adams for Backseat. Supporting actor, again, early bid, I'm going to say Sam Rockwell is going to be the first actor in close to 25 years since Tom Hanks to win 2 Oscars back-to-back. Sam Rockwell for Backseat. Then I've got Timothée Chalamet for Beautiful Boy, Daniel Kaluuya for Widows. I do have Joel Edgerton in for Boy Erased, and we didn't mention Richard E. Grant for Can You Ever Forgive Me? Looks like he has a good role in that, so I'm going to put him in at this stage just as an early prediction for supporting actor. And for lead actress, I'm just going to go with Saoirse Ronan as the early frontrunner for Mary Queen of Scots, Viola Davis for Widows, Melissa McCarthy for Can You Ever Forgive Me, Felicity Jones on the Basis of Sex, and Olivia Colman for The Favorite. Then we've got Best Actor, Christian Bale, Backseat as my early frontrunner, Ryan Gosling for First Man, Steve Carell for Beautiful Boy, Rami Malek for Bohemian Rhapsody, and Lucas Hedges for Boy Erased. Early bids for Best Director, I have Spike Lee for BlacKkKlansman, Damien Chazelle for First Man, Barry Jenkins for If Beale Street Could Talk, Alfonso Cuarón for Roma, and Felix Van Groeningen for Beautiful Boy. And for Best Picture, we can have up to 10. It's probably not going to be 10, but if I got it whittled down to 10, it's going to be First Man, just in the front runner spot for now, just as an early bid. If Beale Street Could Talk, Beautiful Boy, BlacKkKlansman, Black Panther, Mary Queen of Scots, A Star Is Born, Roma, Bohemian Rhapsody, and Backseat as my 10 there. Now, obviously, these are going to change a lot as time goes on. As more films get released and screened, that'll all change. So, yeah. All right, I'm dying here, so I am going to go ahead and call that for the first video. Again, I'm on culturedvultures.com if you want to check that out. Check out a few of the articles there. I'll keep posting through the season there, and we'll keep in touch over YouTube here.